Awesome. Welcome, folks. Thank you for your patience while we figured out some of our technical hurdles there. Welcome to the February online luncheon with the Canby Area Chamber of Commerce. We're joined today by Lauren Teague, who we'll catch up with here in a moment. But wanted to run down a couple of things before we jump right into talking about digital strategy and local business marketing. First off, as always, big shout out to our presidential level member DirectLink for their support as always. And last month we introduced our 2020 board members, but we had our annual board retreat about a week and a half ago. And we have new officers for the 2021 year. And so I'm proud to announce that this year's president of the Canby Area Chamber is Tyler Nizer from the Clackamas County Fairgrounds and Event Center. Our vice president is Chief Jim Davis from Canby Fire. And our second vice president, Diane Harbeck from Better Homes and Gardens Realty Partners. Our secretary treasurer is Tina Schimpf from Hope Village. So very happy to have my executive board in place and ready to go. Rest of the board, we have George Martinez from Pac West, Mace Peevler from Wilson Construction, Sue Winner from the Canby School District, Dr. Ashley McFerrin from Canby Eye Care, Vanessa Zimmerman from Academy Mortgage, and our past president for the 2021 year is Terry Giesick of Gustafson Insurance and Frontier Golf Course. One of our favorites, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you to the board and for our new officers who stepped up to serve this year. I really look forward to working with this group of professionals. Couple of announcements. The Chamber's online auction event is March 2nd through the 6th. Our sponsorship opportunities are actually sold out as of now. But if you would like your business represented in the auction, we are still soliciting donations, and we would love to represent your products, your services, whatever you wish to contribute there. On that same point, we are also running our Two Birds, One Stone promotion within the auction. And basically, this is your way to support the Canby Area Chamber, but also support local business at the same time. What this is a cash donation to the Canby Chamber for the auction that we will turn around and spend that money in local businesses on gift cards, and then put those gift cards into the raffle. So basically, you're supporting our organization. We're going to turn right around and put that cash locally. To support our small businesses and our local economy. So if you don't particularly have a good or a service that you want represented in the auction, your company can be represented in the auction as a sponsor through the Two Birds, One Stone campaign. And since it's an online auction, we're really going to do a lot of wider promotion and inviting the whole community to participate. So this really is an opportunity to get your business name out there and in front of folks while doing some good, not only for the chamber, but for our local businesses. Exciting bit of news, Shred Day is back on. Yes, everybody loves some Shred Day. Weirdly enough, we get more calls about Shred Day as an event than like any other chamber event possible. So Shred Day's back. It is April 22nd at the Clackamas County Fairgrounds from noon to 4 p.m. All the regular players are going to be there. K-Hoot will be there helping us not only with secure shredding, but also with e-waste recycling. Canby Police will be there for prescription, disposing of old prescriptions. Canby Lions Club will be there to recycle old eyeglasses as well as cell phones. They have a cell phone recycling program that they do. Weber Consulting will be there to help you with secure hard drive wiping hard drives. So all the regular players are there. Come out and join us. There's plenty going on there to declutter, right? We've all been indoors for a while, so let's get rid of some of that stuff. The roadmap, the Canby roadmap has been printed and it is available. We're distributing it around to those players that we know love to give these out: realtors, mortgage brokers, Canby Ford, the car rental program out there. But if you would like some of these for your business, or you have a public-facing business, or for your employees, maybe you have pizza delivery, right? Come and pick those up at the chamber offices. Lastly, free PPE. If you need masks, hand sanitizer, disinfecting wipes, I have a couple face shields. I only have a couple boxes of gloves left. But if any of these materials you need for your business, this is absolutely free. Just reach out to the chamber and contact us. We'll schedule a time to make sure that you can get the supplies you need in order to keep yourself, your employees, and your customers safe. And I think that's it.
Woo.
That's it for announcements. Bang, bang, bang. Hammer them out. So now I'd like to invite Lauren to join us here at the table. And we're going to have a little conversation about digital strategy, about local marketing and whatnot. And just to give you a little bit of a background on Lauren and who she is and what she does, Lauren was once a single-digit handicap golfer.
Once,
but, which it doesn't directly relate to.
Maybe twice, but it was a long time ago.
But it happened. It existed. Today, she's a digital marketing expert who is powered by collaboration. She's worked with a range of clients, including higher ed, healthcare, B2B, retailers, nonprofit organizations, professional sports leagues, and athletes, including 7 seasons as the social media lead of the PGA Tour, which is that's like bucket list kind of dream job for
It is absolutely a dream job.
Folks.
It was for me.
Yeah. Today, she's a strategist with the renowned advisory Convince and Convert, a partner in sports PR summit events, and the co-host of the Mom Buns podcast, and president of her children's co-op preschool. But most importantly, for our purposes here, she calls Canby home, right? So she's here, she lives in our community, she's invested. So please help me welcome Lauren Teague.
Thanks, Kyle.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So Lauren and I have been having a conversation actually over the space of months, really, talking about local businesses, about strategies, about customer journeys, about all kinds of aspects of digital marketing process, as well as business processes, as well as marketing. How do you match those things up? And so I thought she would be a great asset to kind of bring on the show and share the love with the rest of you. So to start, do you want to kind of give us...
Where do you want to start?
Maybe give us a 10,000-foot view of maybe trends in digital marketing and as it applies to local businesses?
Yeah.
Kind of give us a primer?
Sure. Well, no surprise, in the last year, because it has been now a year since we've really been talking about and understanding that what COVID-19 kind of was, and then slowly that kind of grew into like how it's affected us. And as business owners, especially of local businesses, of shops where people can walk into, this has had a drastic effect on business. For someone like me, I have worked from home actually the whole time that I've lived in Canby. So other than upgrading my webcam and my mic, there's not much that I day to day had to deal with. And so kind of that, I think that just illustrates around the range of the spectrum of we've been impacted personally, our businesses have been impacted, the way that we work, and really the way that we consume and who we shop with. So the biggest trend is that your customers are truly now your neighbors. So if they weren't necessarily before, if you had e-commerce or you were dealing, you're at professional services and you have clients all over the region or the country, the people who you can actually reach out and reach in your community, these neighbors who are home, they're not even driving into Beaverton, to Portland, down to Salem, that kind of thing. They're actually here. And so those people are looking now within their perimeter to find the insurance companies, the dentist, the caregivers, the sandwich shops that they didn't traditionally need because they didn't spend a lot of their time locally.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the biggest change. And that's not a digital change, except that as audience members, as consumers, we're really, really wired to pick up our phones to get the information that we need.
Right.
And I don't mean pick up your rotary phone.
Right.
Right, and do this, right? It's pick up your smartphone, ask your smart speaker, go onto Facebook and ask, where can I find, my furnace is suffering from being on more over the last 12 months.
Right.
I need a heating and cooling company recommendation. I need a dog groomer. I need a wedding caterer. These things that we're asking, so we're going to Google for that. We're going to Yelp. We're asking our friends. We're asking Facebook groups.
Right.
And that's really the biggest change, because we're not listening to the radio, because most of us don't have commutes. Our TVs are on, but they're streaming. They're not necessarily local cable and things like that anymore. And so I read today, the TV screen is where 77% of all screen consumption has been happening. But most of that is actually YouTube, streaming apps, Roku player, et cetera, not traditional, turn on the
broadcast.
TV. So if your media buys were local TV, local radio, that kind of thing, you're just not hitting the same people at the scale that you can be doing online, because it's just not where we're going to find that kind of information. And so that's probably powers that biggest change that as a business owner you have to make, right? Your website is not optional, it's essential. Your Facebook page is not optional, it's essential. Your Yelp page, your Nextdoor, your local, anything that has to do with local business is really on my radar for where people need to be spending their time and making sure their information is up to date.
Where to input that investment. And what's so funny is, I'm always kind of looking at where's the challenge, but also where's the opportunity. And what you said about fewer people commuting and actually remaining in their homes to spend their days, their professional hours, et cetera. Canby's been such a bedroom community where employment for most folks resided outside, and then they returned in the evenings. Now, really there's an opportunity to capture some of those folks locally within your business.
Yeah.
So, right, it's a challenge, but an opportunity at the
It is a
same
great
moment.
opportunity for someone if you're in agritourism or you're somewhere where you can put people outdoors, give them more space. But again, if that's an initiative that you're doing for the very first time, or people are used to, so many of us are used to going to the tulip farms. And unfortunately last year they essentially canceled. You could still go out and buy from their gift shop. You could go buy your flowers. You can go get your things. And if you were out there, they would let you kind of walk through the grounds, and it was beautiful.
Right.
But they couldn't have their big event. So just in that, right, making sure that messaging is clear, it's getting out
Right.
in all the places that people are looking for that, and letting people kind of spread the word for you.
One beautiful story that comes out of that specific example was the collaboration kind of between Swan Island Dahlias and the Wooden Shoe Tulip Farm, and kind of sharing the sales of flowers and driving people to give them multiple points of opportunity with which to engage with the business, and raising both businesses up as a result, and making sure that they're on their radar.
Sure. I live much closer to the Dahlia farm, and I had fresh tulips in my house for weeks.
Yeah.
Because it was so easy just to go down to the flower stand and pick that up. And I think also as we continue to navigate pandemic and hopefully kind of what comes next, there's certainly an opportunity to be more customer experience driven in your business. And some of these, whether it's a collaboration or just a different way of doing business, some of that's going to have to stick around because it's been so darn convenient for us consumers. Curbside pickup is one. I am a mom of 3 kids, and if I have everybody in the minivan, the last thing I want to do is unbuckle 3 car seats, take all of my kids in to your store and do whatever I have to do, and before I have to go back in and buckle them all in. And so to do curbside pickup, whether it's at Target or it's the Book Nook or the library, that kind of thing, it's just it's really convenient. I think that businesses are going to have to find what works for both the business, what makes sense for the business, but also for the consumer and adapt in the way that we have done business.
Yeah.
I remember calling Wayward, after, like kind of between, they had been delivering for a long
Right.
time, right, when they
Yep.
shut down. And then they were going back to having people in the store. And I would call and Mount and say, you know what, we're not really delivering anymore because we have to keep our employees here. But if I've been delivering to you, I'll still do it if you need me to, right? And just kind of making that extra step to make sure, not that they weren't going to get the sale, but just to layer that customer experience part in. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I think we're going to find so many processes that came as a result of adaptation that just solidify into ongoing aspects of operation. So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting to see what kind of falls away post, what comes next and what remains.
And I know that we're not really talking like quote unquote technology.
Yeah.
But the things that power those experiences for us on the back end, right? If you're using an app, if you're texting, if you have an email list, if you're looking at your website analytics or your social media inboxes, those things. I mean, we're all creating these like really rich customer profiles. We're getting data. And when I work with clients, very, very big clients, that's also an eye of what we have too, is like, how are we taking the customer data that we're collecting, because everything's contactless, and so there has to be a record, some sort of electronic record, because email is the best way to get reach and be in your audience's inbox,
Right.
That kind of thing. And so that, I don't want to underestimate like that layer of data and customer profile that we're able to build, and then start to use some tools online to go look for, who else looks like this audience that I've successfully sold to. Let's go find people who quote unquote look like them online, and let's market to them. Let's remarket someone who's already been to our website with a better offer or an additional kind of special, and pull them back into the fold. Make one sale turn into 2, 3, or 4. And so there is a layer that you add on to, but it all starts with that interaction that person has with your business, no matter whatever that is.
Interesting. We're always trying to look for the repeat customer, for the lifetime customer, for the repeat business, right? I mean, that's the bread and butter of most, brick and mortar business. I mean, coming from 20 years in hospitality,
Yeah.
You love your regulars, those folks. And so I think we're all looking for the manner in which we develop that relationship basis in this new kind of ecosystem of commerce and how we operate. Yeah, fascinating. Anything else on the 10,000 foot view? Or
I mean, that was like 10 minutes on the 10,000.
Right,
I'm really
right.
sorry about that.
No, you're good. Well, we covered a little bit about this, but I'll re-ask the question just in case there's anything you want to continue to touch on. How has the past year changed the way we interact with businesses?
Yeah, so again, it's our eyes are on local first, and I think our ears are attuned to what other people are saying about that business. And so while none of those are new,
Right.
They are emphasized in this way that we do it. Hey, and that's why we see so many recommendations. That's why Facebook actually layered in a recommendations like tool, right? If you ask a question and it feels something in that question is phrased like local, it's going to create a post that says asking for recommendations,
Right.
whether or not you actually tried to do that, which is really interesting to layer that on without asking first if
Right.
that's the user intent. But that's a different conversation.
Right.
But yeah, so there's like an asking for recommendations layer in the world's most popular social network. So we're attuned to that, what we see, what we hear, what we know, and of course we love to give recommendations. So it's also in what we say, and so that is certainly manifesting how information spreads and where businesses need to be putting key messages and talking to their audiences, because your audience isn't going to be on all of the channels at all the same times. And
Right.
so one of the things I work with clients is in writing your playbook is to really discover which channels are most important, because most businesses, even the businesses I work with have relatively small marketing teams. They're
Yeah.
not hundreds of people, but there's a marketing, a director or a VP of marketing and maybe 2 people underneath that are really tasked with doing all of these things. So that's not unlike, someone who's running their local brick and mortar, and marketing social media is just kind of part of their job.
Right.
It's at scale. You really have to identify, like, where are my people? And then where do I reach them? And how do I reach them? And most effectively. So I am definitely not a broad swath, like everything all in one space. Like, you have to, intentionally go and say, my Instagram account is the most popular place, I get the most engagement there. So I'm going to focus on Instagram. I'm going to point my other social channels to Instagram. And from Instagram, I'm going to call to my website or my email list so people can get like in a closer contact with me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's, we talk about scale and size in the marketing, and I think kind of what it boils down to a lot of times, and the hard decision for like maybe local business owners is like employee time as well as marketing. That's all an investment, right? And an investment of dollars. And it's like, on that convert aspect, right? Like we can kind of feel like we continue to kind of push time and money into this process, but then sometimes it's harder for them to see the convert on the other side.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of any hard and fast advice for you in terms of how to begin to maybe change
The mindset.
the mindset?
So there's a couple things about that, and the first is, it takes time, and my team right now, we have a saying that like your secretary can't run your social media. Like the investment is just too great, and the return, whether positive or negative, is probably too great to throw it on someone who's already has a full plate of responsibilities to do. So that this is actually like a key thing. So if you're going to make content or social or your digital presence a priority, then, that has to be backed with resources or time or agency or freelancers, that kind of thing. And we want to make sure, that you're running from a place of strategy, not tactics, so that things tie back. Because I firmly believe that whatever you're doing, that you are spending your money on and you are spending your time on, I really, truly believe that you have to see a return. So
Yeah.
if your business is selling sandwiches or selling insurance, that the things that you spend your time on, especially with marketing, need to like create and show results in those areas.
Yeah.
And that's truly the best way. So if your marketing plan and strategy don't level back to what the business goals are and how you stay in business, then it's not going to make that kind of argument for seeing that return. Now, whether you're running like paid media, then there's a data point called return on ad spend, right? So if you're spending money on Facebook ads, that's one of the things that you're going to watch is if I'm spending, $4 per click and I'm tracking all the way through to a conversion, right? I'm going to they're going to be able to calculate for you a return on ad spend. If you're spending $8 but making $80 per transaction, then that's a great return, right? That's 10 times. Well, if you're making 10 times, on your ads, well, you can now double, triple your investment in your ads because you're seeing that plays out. And if it drops a little bit, it's not going to kill you.
Right.
And so, like, from a data perspective, that return on ad spend in just paid media, that's definitely the thing that that tells me, is this working, is this not? But you can't always do that with all of your marketing channels.
Right.
And all of your initiatives. So you've got to kind of pick and choose, like, what is the thing that shows the conversion, the action, or at least, repeat customers is a great one, right? Lifetime value of a customer versus how many people can we get in the door? How many of those come back is a way to kind of measure that. And so that's, I always want to see people doing things with purpose and intention, even if that means you can only truly send one email a month, like to a subscriber list. Make it a good email, and it won't matter how frequent that sends, but in that email, also make sure that you're tracking how many people are replying to you, how many people are clicking on it, how many people are forwarding that to a friend, and how many people don't want to get that kind of email anymore
Right.
by unsubscribing. So there's lots of data points layered in to all of this marketing activity.
Yeah.
So I think you just kind of have to pick the ones. It can't be everything. You
Yep.
can't just report on everything, but pick the ones that really tie back to your business and your bottom line to get started.
Interesting. There was one, there was two terms that you delineated within that answer as well, and I wonder if you could just kind of circle back and maybe define those. Tactics versus strategy.
Yeah. We start with strategy. Strategy is the strategic direction. It's the why and the why of what we do, okay? The what and the why of where we're going. So that includes your brand and your tenants and your core values. It includes, how you talk, how you communicate, and how that then is presented across all of your touch points. And all of your touch points means that if you're brick and mortar, it means every time somebody walks in we've all walked into a business and we're greeted by employees who hear the door chime
Right.
and they say something. We recognize that, and that's part of that customer experience. That's part of one of those touch points, and there's true value
Yeah.
if you get that right. It's extreme value. It's no different than if your sales team is on the phone, right? How they interact with the person on the other end. That is a touch point
Right.
of your brand, and so you want to make sure that that is right, and your sales team gets that right, or your customer service team for that matter.
Yeah.
And so the strategy is that what and why, and a little bit of the where, and the tactics are really that how are we going to get it done, and that's really the how. Well, we're going to create 2 blog posts a month. We're going to send 2 emails. We're going to use Square to get our customers' email addresses and get feedback on their in-store experience. Those kinds of things. So strategy is the what and the why, and and tactics are the
Tactics is the how.
Yeah.
The mechanisms, the device, the software,
Yep,
the
exactly.
platforms,
And you get the game plan, the playbook, from the tactics, but it has to be anchored in something bigger than that. It just can't be, we hired someone to do social media and they're great at social media, so we're just going to let them, post as much as they want and da-da-da.
Right.
Because if it doesn't tie back to, this is our business, this is what we stand for, this is how we interact, this is how we show up in the world, then, and they're so disconnected, people are going to see right through that. And those efforts are not going to be nearly as successful as if you do tie them back to something that is bigger
right.
than just one social channel.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. How are we doing? We're good. Next question. Where should local businesses be focused to grow their audience?
I talked about it a little bit earlier, but I really think that the local business channels or resources, so Google My Business, right? If you want to show up, you got to make sure that you've got your business profile unlocked, that the hours are correct, that the COVID-19 information about your services is up to date, because everything starts there. Everything starts with that Google business profile. So that's the first place, right? And then...
Oh, and actually, this is one thing that I don't think I've ever shouted out really to the Chamber audience, is that I've been approved by Google to actually approve people's businesses.
Nice.
Without them having to submit for the postcard, or I can actually initiate that process from the Chamber as well. So if you haven't
Beautiful.
claimed your Google business, come talk to me at the Chamber, and I can actually help you hook that up and make sure that you claim your own business.
Yeah.
So,
And once you've done that, right, it's not a set it and forget it.
Right.
Because if your hours are changing, which a lot of businesses are doing, if your health and safety is changing, if you've added a new social media account, making sure your website is correct on there, adding images,
Yeah.
like all of those things are things that you can be. So it should be a platform where people are actually publishing to or considering whenever they do kind of those big edits. And I would say at least quarterly go in and just make sure everything's up to date.
Right.
But also have a plan. So if you have a plan that says, okay, here's all the places that when our hours change in response to, orders or whatever, or guidelines, when our hours change, here's all the places that needs to update. And that is on our sign out front,
Right.
on our website, on our voicemail, and
Right.
Google Business, it's got to be there. Like, eventually they'll find it and they'll scrape your website and they'll find it, but it's
Right.
just so much better for your customer because when you go search for some da-da-da in Canby, Oregon, it's going to pull up on that right side of the page your Google business listing.
Yeah.
Most people stop there. They don't need to click to your website.
Right.
So put the most important stuff right in front, right there. Put the most important stuff on the front of your website in your social account bios, where, if someone's looking for you for the first time, they go to your Instagram page, you get one link on Instagram and a few hundred words or a few hundred characters. So use those super effectively, not to say this is what we're about or this is the official home of my business, but tell them what they need to know about how to interact with you, how to order from you, how to share your brand.
Right.
And so
Whatever
these
that
little-
larger strategy is for that specific media.
Right.
Yeah.
So you see how now they're all kind of tying together. So you've got to pay attention as a local business. And then, are you getting referrals from Nextdoor or Angie's List? Are you getting referrals are people leaving you reviews on Yelp or Glassdoor? All of these kind of local spaces. They might be pretty small, but in the periphery, but if that's where people are coming, and looking for information or talking about a business or your business or like yours, then you want to be at least visible
Right.
in those conversations. And so making sure that that footprint is baked in. And then I really, really, really love the idea of doing for local business either an email subscriber list or a text message subscriber list, because you bypass borrowed spaces, which social media is all borrowed space, right?
Right.
We don't own the land, we're just leasing it.
Yep.
And at any time that golden tower.
Leasing the attention, even.
Right.
Yeah.
That golden tower is crumbling or going to crumble quite fast. And so we want to make sure that if for some reason that's not available to us anymore, that we still have a direct line to our customers. And so that's by having their email address, having their phone number, having permission to text them or email them, or even to remarket to them, right? If you have an email list, you can then actually upload that into Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Twitter ads, Google ads, and remarket to those people. Now you actually do it with a pixel on your website, and then that collects all that data for you so that you can say, okay, you've been here once, and we can get to you again, give you another offer to come back into the store, to give us a call, to sign up, whatever it is.
Yeah. Interesting. I think, and this is the modern misconception. I'm good at social media. I know what I'm doing, and I'm not alone in that impression. No. There's so many of us out there, and then I sit down and I talk to you, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I mean, we've talked a little bit about social media, but I'm really on a mission not to be put into that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But because I have a ton of experience there.
Right.
My Twitter account is old enough to be a teenager, even though my kids aren't. But that's fine, right?
Digital.
But the thing that I have learned is, and especially over the last 6 years working with the world's most interesting brands at Convince and Convert, right? Self-taught marketer I can unpack that quite easily. It is my superpower. I can unpack the CMO level thinking, and I can bring it to any audience. And so for a local business, I think it's extremely important because, we've suffered a ton. Every business has been impacted. Even if your business is impacted in a positive way. If you're an RV dealer, if you're Tony at the bike shop, right? If you had great second, third, fourth quarters last year.
You're an OLCC sanctioned liquor store.
Yeah, that's you, right? So, but then it's looking at this and saying, how do I take advantage? How do I make sure I stay in touch with those customers? How do I get them? One business that has done really well is we got a pandemic pet. I know a lot of people got pandemic pets. My husband is in charge of all things cat, and that's fine. But I see the postcards that come from Sequoia. That say now this thing is due because I don't know why, I don't know how, I don't know what's going on with the cat and what he needs. But I see the postcards come through, and that's a touch point that gets my attention. Right? If it was an email to my husband, I'd never see it. I would never even consider it. But now I know and he knows, and they can always get to us at home. And that's a great touch point. And maybe they're not measuring exactly that, except for, hey, we sent a notice. they made an appointment within a week, right? We sent a
Yeah.
notice, they made an appointment within 2 days. That kind of thing. We sent a notice, they never made an appointment, we had to call them, right? That's still customer data
Right.
that you can that you can analyze and figure out like what's a better cadence for our postcards. Do we need to change the do we need to change the font size of the postcard? Maybe do we try this in a SMS and click to call to make your appointment?
Yeah.
It gives you so many more options once you know kind of what the behaviors are.
Right. So I kind of stuck my foot in it a little bit, and we had put this question in advance, but I think the timing is perfect now. What are the 3 worst questions people ask you about their marketing?
They're not, I'm not going to give you exact questions,
Sure,
okay?
sure.
Because I don't want anybody to be
Themes.
like, what?
Broad themes.
But the themes of them are, should I be on this thing? Should I do this?
Like, should I be on Twitter or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah. Should I be, how much does it cost me? Like, how much do we have to spend? And we kind of already talked
Yeah.
about that with making sure you're not spending disproportionately to what you're getting back.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one is, well, I already know my customer, right? This assumption that they kind of understand and know without being open to kind of learning or taking a closer look at something. And those things, whether you're doing them purposefully, like consciously, or you've just kind of, as a business owner, mentally checked the box. Yep. Nope, we've got that Twitter account, we got that Facebook account, we have a website, it's great. If you have not been back in the back end of your website in 6 months, you need to get back there and look at because there are little things, security details, et cetera, that you need to stay on top of, or your webmaster needs to stay on top of.
Yeah.
But also is it, do you have Flash? Because Flash disappeared. Do you have, these kind of key things that are really make or break your customer experience? And so if you assume or have already checked the box, or you're trying to do everything at once without that strategy, then you're kind of, missing the bigger picture. And for me, and this because we talked about it, is it all ties back to that customer experience. What is the experience I get no matter where I'm looking for the information, no matter who I'm talking to? And there's some of that the business can control, and then some of it is influenced. It's influenced by your employees, your existing customers, or other people who have had, or other business leaders in the community. And that's where Chamber gets to be really, really powerful. One of the things I've talked to you about is having a place where members can say oh, I just posted this. Oh, we're doing this event. Da da da. And it's kind of a pod or a group for Chamber members. I think actually our Chamber member website, kind of the back end of that has that message board piece of it.
Right.
So you say, hey, it's Lauren, I'm doing this other thing, and it's online and anybody can attend or watch. Just thought you might be interested. And also, here's a link to my LinkedIn post. Can you like or comment on it? Right? And we start to kind of build this voice. And so what works really well for digital influencers on Instagram, they've been having pods for as long as Instagram's been around. Here's 20 creators. Every time they post, they send a link to 20 team members, and all of those people go in, instantly like and comment on that post, and it goes up the rankings and into the algorithm, and it stays sticky.
Yep.
These are things that we can absolutely mimic and bring to a local level, whether it's a text message chain, a LinkedIn pod, or just good word of mouth and writing each other ratings and recommendations online.
Yeah. And that's one thing, you talk about the Chamber, and I'm always soliciting member announcements, I feel like. Or I'll see something and I'd be like, why didn't you tell me? Keep us informed.
It's not part of those tactics.
I'll put it on the newsletter and send it out. We have a 30 to 40% open rate on newsletters of business owners and local professionals. It's but I think we all get kind of head down in the work, and to look up and look at strategy and then really use that to drive the tactics.
Yeah. But especially in a community like Canby, we're all buying from each other.
Right.
Especially at this time, right? Whether it's pizza, what's for dinner tonight? It's pizza, it's Thai, it's wild hair, or it's sandwiches, right? Here's the things. Well, we're all buying from each other at all parts of the day. My insurance is here. The things that me and my family use are here. Yeah. Everything's here. And so, we can be, without thinking about or being even prompted, but how they say, like, write a thank you note every day, right? Do your 3 lines of gratitude, or sit down and write a thank you note every week. Well, the 2021 version of that is sit down and write a recommendation, right? It is one thing to send a thank you to a business owner or a business to say, I had a great experience. But now you can do that publicly, and you can do it on Yelp or Google reviews or Facebook or wherever you feel comfortable leaving that. And you can still write that thank you that likely that business owner is going to see, but in a way where other people are going to see it too. And ratings and reviews really do drive, perception and business.
And what a great last line on a thank you even. The personalized thank you card. Oh, and by the way, I also left you a review on
Sure.
X.
Sure. I monitor, I'm the president of KNB Community Preschool.
Right.
Well, in every mom group, there are, like once a month or even more frequently, there are people who are, I'm looking for preschool, I'm looking for childcare for my 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old.
Right.
What do you know about, and sometimes they'll actually name our school, what do you know about CCP? And I just kind of sit back and I watch the responses, right? And, and I'll chime in and disclose like who I am and my relationship to the school. But I sometimes just watch the responses, and I'll see alumni parents, people who haven't been in the school for a few years, leave these amazing experience as reviews or like testimonials, right? And that's what they are. They're just answering somebody's question, but it's in a testimonial type way. Well, for a few of them, I've actually copied what they've said, people that I know, copied what they said, sent it back to them in a Facebook message and said, I really just loved what you wrote about the school, and it would mean so much to us if you left this that I've already copied and put right here back for you.
Control C, they can pick it back up.
Yeah, if you would just leave this as a review on our Facebook page. So it's, and I've done the same thing with LinkedIn testimonials, right? Somebody sees me speak, they're like, you did, such a great job, and we loved, I learned this, this, and this. Hey, you know what, thank you so much. Could you just copy that and put that right over here? And I'll send you like this link, boom, put it right here. Because it makes such a difference when it's not different for me, but that other people can see that, and that's a testament to my business or, the things that I'm involved in. So.
Yeah. That's interesting. I use social media a lot of times for like people's birthdays, but then I don't put it there, I put it over here. Because I think the impact in a text message, a personal, from my phone to your phone text message, because I think the power and the impact is so much greater when it's that personal message. It's the same concept here. It's kind of taking the power and the impact and putting it in the place where it's going to be useful, where it's going to be powerful for the recipient.
And it doesn't necessarily make it less powerful if I see it happen online versus in my inbox. But there's no reason why you couldn't encourage both, right? Either be proactive and say, I also left this on your Google review, or, coming back and being like, that means so much to me. We are friends, and would you also be willing to do this?
Right.
Put it here because I'm trying to get more LinkedIn reviews. I'm trying to get more Yelp reviews. I'm trying to raise a score. To raise a score, if you have a handful of negative reviews or 1 or 2 stars, it does take a significant amount to bump that. And so you might be really helping somebody out. That's not to say, I should make the note, that negative reviews are okay if you have them sprinkled in, because it actually shows, it builds trust in audiences to actually see a couple less than stellar reviews. So don't be afraid of the negative, but just, counterbalance that with
it seems more authentic, as opposed to like I had every cousin and every friend in my high school class leave me a review on my page.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. So in all of this, what questions should we be asking instead? If you could kind of take us from that, out of that mindset that we kind of just addressed, and point us, right, via inquiry and questions. Where should we go?
Yeah, I think the most important question that you can frame this thinking around is, who is my audience and what is their experience? I've been doing a lot of work with my colleagues on what we call decision journey mapping or audience mapping. And it really is mapping out someone's experience with your brand or business through, like, I'm interested, I'm aware of this, but I don't know that your brand even exists, all the way through loyalty and bringing them back into the fold, right? What can they do? And so there's usually, in any sales journey or funnel, there's, anywhere from like 3 to 6 basic steps. And then you can actually slice and dice those even greater if you need to. But on top of the sales journey, there's all these layers of emotion and decision and hesitation that kind of go into like what you're feeling. So at any stage of your, like where you are at the sales journey, which is how we traditionally think about this, there's actually maybe sub-stages of decision, right? You could be like excited and then hesitant in kind of in that same like consideration before you actually take the action, right? You could be like, not really sure, uneasy, but also, you could then follow that up with like some confidence or like some resolve.
Right.
And so it's not just looking at this really linear sales journey, but then it's looking about the decisions, the emotions, what questions do people have, what hesitations do they have? And then, so that's kind of the whole audience segment. And then we layer on what your business does to respond.
The actual
So where do you
activities.
show up? What's your most important message? How does that look in content or in touch point? And kind of how your brand responds so that at each stage, we know kind of where they are in the journey, but also what emotions they're feeling while they're trying to make them, what questions they have, and so that we can cultivate a strong response. And sometimes this happens like that, right? Your decision when the first time you walk into one of Camby's restaurants and you're looking at the takeout menu, your decision journey is likely much, much shorter, much more accelerated.
Right.
But if you stop and examine that, you would see kind of that flow, right? Of like, I'm interested, I'm considering, I'm ordering, I have a meal, right? And so at each step, like, is the menu printed out so that you can touch it? Is there a QR code? Like, what are the touch points? Is the person taking the order upselling, anything? Is at the end, is there anything in the bag that says like, thank you for supporting us, please leave us a review, right? There's kind of like all of these things that we can do. So very long answer to your simple question of what should we be asking more, but I truly believe audiences or businesses have to pay attention to their customers.
Right.
And what their experience is at every single, before they're in your door, before they're on your website, all the way through, because that is how the strategy gets made, how you show up, what you sound like, and how you want to be present for that customer.
Yeah. What's really interesting kind of about what you just laid out is that so many businesses have responded to COVID and so much of that has been operational. How do we serve, right, the customer, but just to get the customer, to get the sale. But I don't know if that deeper layer of examination between now that we have this process, let's stand back and actually relook about what that is for the customer. So we're doing things that maybe are working and are helping, but we haven't kind of reevaluated now how does that change maybe the way we speak to people, how we act, how we respond. So that, this is kind of now that people have maybe solidified some of these processes and things are maybe operating a little more smoothly than they were a couple months ago, this could be a good time to maybe ask some of those questions.
Well, that's a good segue.
Right?
Because that's exactly what I want to help our local businesses do. And so, Kyle, you and I had teamed up to do a workshop in next month on March 18th.
Yep.
In the afternoon, but we're going to spend a lot of time. It's going to be virtual,
Right.
Just for the sake of things. But we will be talking about all of this. So if anything has struck a chord or you have questions about it, not only can you reach out to me, but I'd love to talk to you about coming in and actually doing some of the work. So I'm the kind of presenter that really believes that if I'm going to be in front of somebody for 3 hours teaching them, I can't talk the whole time.
Right.
People need to have a chance to really capture their thoughts, write down kind of the things that get them started so that they can move on. And so what I'm really excited about in this workshop specifically is that we've actually built in a couple weeks of accountability
Right.
after the workshop. So rather than having a full day,
Yep.
we're going to give you what you need to know and some materials to take back and do that work. And we're going to continue to have this conversation for a couple weeks together as the cohort and really kind of help make each other better
Yeah.
in that way.
And I think that for both of us, that was such an important part of, because I think we've all, we all have been to presentations, speakers, workshops that were really, really powerful and maybe were a start, but then you go home and then what? And so that.
And you go back to work.
You're right. And to the old processes and to the old, and so that 2-week follow-up, that kind of accountability group of the ability to ask questions, or this is what I tried, or this is what I'm thinking. We're hoping that enables the success of anybody that cares to participate. And that really was on you, knowing that about what you do. So smart there.
It's part of my audience journey.
See, keep them in contact.
Yeah,
So they're
keep 'em
thinking about you. Yes. So for those of you that are watching now, we do have an early registration discount that if you enroll anytime between now and 1 p.m. on February 12th, you'll get $50 off. So the entire workshop would be $199. That includes the workshop as well as the 2-week accountability group. We also have an offer just for Canby Area Chamber members. That is to be a featured business within the workshop. That's $150 to be the featured business. This features a pre-workshop call with Lauren to kind of go over your kind of digital presence and some of your
just
processes.
So I can
and-
be an informed, so we do some of the pre-work, so the workshop time is just really actionable and really helps people kind of see how the frameworks and the ideas get actually translated into real life.
Yeah,
So I'm
so-
excited to do that with a couple businesses.
front load the workshop with some concepts and some information that can really make this workshop activate for you. So we really only have the 2 spots. So if you're interested in taking advantage of that, we have that available. I'm excited for what I'm going to learn. I learn something every time I talk to you.
No conversation is ever the same when it comes to this stuff. You can't be, right?
Yeah.
I'm consistently evolving my materials and what I present on, because between now and March 18th, there's going to be 2 new audience studies around consumption and habits, and hopefully one on localities that I can really tap into and bring. So I'm passionate about bringing like the latest research, the best insights, that CMO level thinking, and making it accessible to the people I work with.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you, everybody who joined us today. Thank you, Lauren, for your time, your experience, your willingness to engage locally. I think your skill set can be leveraged to a huge advantage
I'm
to our
excited about
members.
it. I'm really excited about the workshop. I think it's going to be, we did one similar, like a small business workshop a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the people in there included Book Nook, Retro Revival, and the Bricks and Minifig store.
Yeah.
Well, all 3 businesses have done an extraordinary job, especially in the last 12 months,
Right.
of staying online, staying in front of their customers, and succeeding. And that's just like a small example of, just when I would watch Bricks and Minifig's Facebook Lives on Friday nights to see what things I could buy my kids,
Right.
in April and May, I was like, oh yeah, like I remember talking about and kind of introducing some of those concepts that people can really take and make their own, and that's really fun.
And what's super interesting is all of those businesses that you mentioned show up regularly in my digital life. I mean, they're front and center, So these are tactics that can be leveraged to anyone's advantage, right? So thank you. We're looking forward to it. Thank you for joining us today. We will be back next month with another online luncheon. In the meantime, enroll for Lauren's marketing workshop. Take a look at maybe featuring your business in the auction. Always reach out to us if you have any questions, need a referral, a reference, whatnot. Call us for free PPE. We're here to serve. Appreciate you.